Good Thursday evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls, and we have a lot to talk about in tonight's weather show. First and foremost, we're going to start with good news. So for the last several days, in fact, the last week across the Chicagoland area, we've been talking about poor air quality, but guess what? It is finally showing signs of improving. Our air quality alerts, those are going to be expiring soon, and hopefully we can get through a couple days with good air quality before the threat of wildfire smoke potentially returns going into the latter half of this upcoming weekend. And also, we're talking a lot of heat moving into our area, but it's not just us. The entire central United States has some sort of heat headline, but the hottest temperatures around have been found in southern Arizona. I actually am going to show you an interview that I did with another meteorologist in southern Arizona in Phoenix, telling us just how hot it is. So we'll dive into that in just a few minutes. And then, of course, we're going to check in with the tropics as well, because there's a lot that's beginning to happen across the Atlantic. And we now have two named storms that are in the eastern Pacific. All right, let's dive into our air quality. So for those of you that are in McHenry, Lake County, Kane, all the way over into Cook County, also including DuPage, Kendall, Grundy, as well as Will County, your air quality alert, that's remaining in effect through about midnight, and then it is finally expected to expire. So as of now, I did just check right before we hit the air that this has not been extended, and that's been what we've been dealing with over the last couple of days. Every time we think that we're almost to the end, it gets extended for another day. But so far, this is expected to expire at midnight, which means improving conditions are expected. So out there this evening, a lot of us are actually dealing with moderate air quality, which whenever you're in that category, typically what that means is that it's considered to be acceptable for most individuals. But for those of you that are extremely sensitive to air pollution, you're probably still noticing some effects, especially because we've been dealing with compounding effects, right? We've been dealing with the air quality alerts all week long, really since last week. We've had poor air quality. And of course, that is because of the wildfire smoke that's been coming from Canada. But we've also been tracking a very large fire that is ongoing in Southern California. So if we zoom things in, this is the Gifford fire. So a couple days ago, I was showing you this, and it was roughly about 65,000 acres, which is huge. And then yesterday, around this very same time, this fire was about 85,000 acres. Now it's up to 96,000 acres. And if you figure out the math on what that equates to in square miles, because I think for a lot of us, those numbers make a little bit more sense, it comes out to be about 150 square miles that has been scorched by this Gifford fire. And comparing that to, say, a size of a city, that's just slightly larger than the entire city of Detroit. So for those of you that are possibly familiar with the Detroit Metro, this is about the size of that. So very, very large. And as of right now, this is only about 15% contained. Yesterday, around this very same time, it was roughly about 7 to 9% contained. So we're moving in the right direction, but of course, there is so much manpower that has to go into containing this. And unfortunately, this number is going to continue to grow as those crews continue to fight this fire. So we still have a long ways to go, but at least we're moving in the right direction, now up to 15% contained. So futurecast smoke, this is essentially a model that shows us where the densest smoke in a column of air is over any given location. So you can see where we have the oranges, the reds showing up just periodically here or there. Those are all wildfires that are burning. And then when you get these larger areas, that's when that smoke gets carried up into the atmosphere, likely taps into that jet stream, and then can travel for very, very long distances. So here at home, notice how we're in this gray shaded area. We've seen huge improvements in our air quality over the last couple of days because all of this smoke, which is actually associated with the Canadian wildfires, that's taking off toward the northeast now. We're getting a brief break, but watch as I set this in motion. Potentially going into the next couple of days, I think we're doing pretty well here in the Chicago area. But over the weekend, there is going to be a potential that we could be seeing some of this smoke that's associated with those fires ongoing in the southwestern U.S. could potentially be moving our direction. So it's going to be something to watch here by the end of this upcoming weekend and then possibly into early next week as well. All right, let's talk heat. So we don't have any heat headlines at the moment. In fact, temperatures the next couple of days, yes, they're going to be hot, but I don't think that we're going to be quite in heat advisory criteria. Off to our west, not the case. There's heat advisories that are remaining in effect until tomorrow evening. And here at home, we're planning on temperatures that are going to be in the low to mid 90s. Tomorrow, same exact thing. On Saturday, Saturday is actually going to be our hottest day with heat index values right around 100. But typically, you need several days in a row with heat index values that are in the 100s, if not close to 105. So we're not going to meet that criteria again, but it's still going to be very hot for a lot of us. But zooming things out, take a look at all of the heat headlines. So this is a heat advisory for all locations that you see here highlighted in orange. But the worst of the heat, as I mentioned at the top of this show, is actually in the far southwestern portion of the U.S. in places like Phoenix, Arizona. That's actually been in an excessive heat warning for nearly a week, and it is finally expected to expire tomorrow evening around 10 p.m. Now, earlier today, I checked in with Fox 10 meteorologist Ashley Loessa, and she was telling us some of those details and all of the records that are being broken. Let's take a listen. We're dealing with a lot of heat headlines all across the continental United States, and some of the worst of the heat right now is in Arizona. So joining me now is Fox 10 Ashley Loessa, and tell us a little bit about just how hot it is, but also are records falling with this heat wave?
Oh, well, I'll tell you this much. It is hot out here. We have been under extreme heat warnings since last Friday, and they're not set to expire until tomorrow. So an entire week of temperature readings here in Phoenix of over 110 degrees. Now, yesterday and today, hottest days of this week so far. Yesterday, we hit a record-breaking 116 degrees. Today, we're looking to hit 117. So this today breaks our 2012 record of 112 degrees, which, by the way, this afternoon, right now, we've already hit 115. So peak heat is hitting us. And yes, relief is eventually going to be on its way as early as this weekend. We are looking at temperatures dropping down at around 110 degrees. So outside of that 115 plus degree mark. But another record we've broken was this morning. We hit 94 degrees. So just breaking records left and right. These are brutal temperatures, that long stretch of that extreme heat due to this heat wave that we've been experiencing. Now, late next week, it looks as though we're going to finally feel temperatures a little bit normal, though. Normally, around this time of the year, we're sitting at around 106, 107. That really isn't the case, though, as we have been witnessing under a very strong ridge of high pressure. But as far as relief for our residents, we do have cooling shelters out there available. So that has been definitely great. But also, our area trails, they've been closed as well, especially here in Arizona. We see a lot of people suffer from heat-related illnesses, unfortunately heat-related deaths. But as far as the cooling trend is going, we're certainly going to feel it. We just got to get through today with the peak heat happening.
So one question that I do have is, you know, here in the Midwest, we hear numbers like that and we're like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine the actual air temperature being that high. Is it business as usual for most people that live in the Phoenix area, or is this really impacting people's daily lives?
Yeah, well, for a lot of folks that are used to the heat, I mean, they know how it goes. It's just kind of the name of the game, living here in the desert. But for a lot of folks that are new, we get a lot of transplants out there. We definitely see a lot more occurrences of those heat-related illnesses and, unfortunately, those heat-related deaths as well. So a lot of that we're emphasizing is just to keep it indoors, because when you have temperatures that are 116, 117 degrees. Again, these are dangerously hot temperatures, and so we can't emphasize enough, especially for those, even if you're visiting, just to keep it indoors and doing everything necessary. I think once you get out the door and you feel what feels like an oven, a lot of people know that it's time to keep it indoors. But of course, these are dangerously hot temperatures that we're dealing with right now, and they are brutal.
All right. Thank you so much, Fox 10 Phoenix, Ashley Loessa. Thank you so much for joining us today. So very hot in Arizona. It's about to be very hot here as well. Coming up right after this break, we're going to be checking in with the tropics. We have several systems that we're tracking to tell you about. We'll see you in 2 minutes. Welcome back. It's that time of the year the tropics are heating up, both literally and figuratively, because we have more and more systems that we're beginning to track. And right now in the Atlantic, there are two different areas that we're tracking very closely for some tropical development here in the next couple of days. So this product that we're looking at here, this is put up in the National Hurricane Center. And you can see over the next 7 days, this area that's shaded in yellow, it only has about a 20% chance of development. So we could be seeing some tropical development, but it is highly unlikely that that's going to be turning into any sort of named storm. But something that could have a better potential is this area that you see highlighted in orange here that now has a 60% probability of turning into some sort of tropical depression by late this weekend, possibly into the early portion of next week. And the environment that we're dealing with right now in the Atlantic, it's very conducive for this activity. So the sea surface temperatures, those are warming up. In order to maintain or even develop a tropical storm or a hurricane, you need sea surface temperatures right around 80 degrees or warmer. We already have that, and the shear in the environment, so the change in wind direction and speed with height, we have less of that too, which again is a good thing if you're trying to develop these tropical systems. So that environment, it is conducive of it. So we're going to have to watch both of those areas in the Atlantic. And then bouncing things over to the Eastern Pacific, we have two different systems that we have to tell you about here. So first up is Tropical Storm Henriette. And this one is moving westerly at about 16 miles per hour, has sustained winds of 45 miles per hour, and it's going to be headed just northeast of the state of Hawaii. And notice here that along this line, all these little icons that you see here, those are representing tropical storm strength storms. So this is not expected to strengthen into a Category 1 hurricane. It's expected to maintain tropical storm strength. And while it is passing quite a ways north and east of Hawaii, it still looks like it could be bringing some high surf. And then also, we have a new storm to tell you about just off the coast of Mexico. We have Tropical Storm Evo. This now has maximum sustained winds of 60 miles per hour. And in the next couple of days, it is actually expected to strengthen into a Category 1 hurricane. So that's what we're going to be tracking as it lifts to the north and the west, close to the southern tip of the Baja California Peninsula there. We could be dealing with some weather impacts because of Evo. High temperatures here at home today, upper 80s, low 90s, and it's going to stay hot in the next couple of days. Low to mid 90s expected both Friday and Saturday. Heat index values are going to be right around 100. Now, if you're hoping for rain, we do have rain chances, especially earlier next week. I'll show you all that and more coming up in your news at 9 p.m. We'll see you then.